My name is Coralie Young and I am living in rural New South Wales raising three beautiful boys, Andrew, Bryce and Tristan, who are all living with autism. Our beautiful son Robert was killed in 2003 and most things I do in this life is for the gift that is these great boys. I am passionate about autism awareness. I am a student, an advocate for families living with special needs, a daughter, a sister, an ex-wife and a very proud mum. I am also a dedicated blogger sharing this roller coaster ride of life over at Mum Talks Autism. I have only been blogging for just under a year now, and I often wondered how people get brought into the wonderful world of blogging. The story I'm about to share with you, my story, it's filled with tragedy and sadness, but it's a story that has to be told to get to the end of triumph. Triumph over what seems like insurmountable odds. Let me share this journey. To explain best, I need to go back 10 years. To be exact, 10 years, 3 weeks and 6 days. The day my life changed forever. The scary part is it ends just like you see in those movies. The doctor says to you, she is sorry, but there is nothing more they can do. The only thing keeping him alive is the machine. He is gone. That is such a nice way to put it. Gone. Gone where? He is not gone. He is dead. Then they ask your permission to turn off the machine that beats his heart. The only thing that keeps him alive, keeps him there with you. You nod your head. They turn it off, the alarm sounds, the beating line goes flat, and he is gone. He is dead. This was the day he went away, the day my son Robert was taken from me after a doctor got it all so terribly wrong. An incorrect diagnosis of a colonising infection enabled the infection to travel to his little heart, causing him to suffer a massive cardiac arrest. Losing Robert was the start of a roller coaster ride that found me lost in despair like I had never known before. I never knew that despair like that was possible. At the time I had to also try and pull myself together for my son Andrew, who was 9 and living with autism and generalised anxiety disorder. So Robert's death was overwhelmingly beyond words for him. My husband Andrew at the time was a serving Australian Army officer and was not even in the country. 5 months later, in the May, my best friend and Robert's godmother dropped dead of a heart attack. She was 32. Move forward 4 months to September 2nd, and my adored father, my rock, who had got me through the death of Robert and Jenny, was diagnosed with cancer. There was nothing that could be done, and 14 days later, yes, 14 days after diagnosis on September 16th, I sat beside my darling dad in the local hospital when he took his final breath. My world fell apart after the devastation of 2003, and the 8 years that followed were filled with more loss and more devastation. My best friend's 2 boys were killed in a house fire. Maddie and Shane were 8 and 6 years of age. Cancer engulfed my life as I lost numerous friends and family members to this horrific disease. My best friend was then killed in a car accident, who I had shared a house with and known for over 20 years. In 2006, we thought our life was on the mend when we were blessed with our beautiful son Bryce. Finally, we thought things were going to turn around. 2 months later, he fell gravely ill and was found to have viral meningitis. We almost lost him 3 times in 10 days. 6 months later, Bryce was diagnosed with a rare blood disorder. His platelets were being attacked by his own body. His platelets went as low as 2, and Bryce was literally bleeding from every part of his body as his blood had no way to coagulate. Bone marrow tests were done, and that was one of our options, but we didn't have a match. We found we were pregnant with Tristan whilst we were doing testing for bone marrow matches, and soon discovered that if needed we could use the stem cells from the cord blood of Tristan. In 2008, Tristan was born, but thankfully by the time Tristan arrived, Bryce was in full remission from the treatment he had received and has remained so for 5 years now this past December. The years that followed seemed to go okay as my little family grew. Still something was not right with these boys of mine. I could never have guessed what was around the corner. In 2009, Bryce was diagnosed with autism, phonological speech disorder and sensory processing disorder. And the following year, in 2010, Tristan was diagnosed with classic autism, the worst and most severest, phonological speech disorder, sensory processing disorder and global developmental delay. We had our hands full with these 3 boys living with autism. Now I had a new job. For the years that followed, I dedicated my life to doing 6 hours of therapy a day with these boys. Throughout this time, my partner in life was a member of the Australian Army. Most of the things I've mentioned so far we went through alone, as he dedicated his head and his heart to his country and his love as a pilot. Most days we did not even know where he was, and that in itself took its toll. We have many routines in our house, but no uniforms are allowed. I remember one time at the airport, little Tristan lost his little mind trying to get to the pilot on the tarmac because he thought it was his father, because he had seen Andy in his commercial pilot uniform. So no uniforms in our house. Andy leaves in board shorts and a t-shirt and comes home the same. The little ones think Daddy goes to the beach a hell of a lot. Andy was unable to be there through a lot of what happened these past 10 years. And add to that the pressures of autism times 3, and we had an uphill battle from the start. We separated in 2010, but I think we are the best co-parents in history, and he is my best friend. Autism and a regimented soldier was never going to be an easy fit. Take autism and times that by 3. In 2010, I became seriously ill, and my son Drew, who was away at boarding school, returned home to our farm. Drew started studying at the local school, and through his friendship I met the wonderful Miss Cinders, who you can find over at Saturday Morning Ogre Mum. One day she sent me an email and led me to her blog. Miss Cinders changed my life that day and the path that it would take. I was enthralled by this amazing world of blogging and this blog that Miss Cinders wrote. And during the nights, as Tristan would only sleep 3 hours, yes, 3 hours, I found comfort in this new little world that I had found. A few months later, I asked Miss Cinders one afternoon, "Do you think I could do that? Do you think I could write a blog?" From day one, she encouraged me and put up with my techno inabilities with laughter and many shaking of her head, questioning how on earth I did this or did that. We still don't know. Step away from the blog, she would say. Well, the technical side anyway. I have been banned from all technical sides of the blog. Miss Cinders will ring me and she says to me, "You've been in there again, haven't you?" So if you are ever over at Mum Talks Autism and you see widgets there and then gone and then back again, you can be assured I've been fiddling and Miss Cinders has come to the rescue yet again. Miss Cinders will never take credit for this, but if it was not for her support and guidance and ability to repair my atrocious technical skills, Mum Talks Autism would not be here today. Through the creation of Mum Talks Autism, I not only formed an amazing true life friendship, I found support, I found companionship, and I found a voice. A place where I could share my story, share my grief, and share my exhaustion of living with 3 boys with autism, all while trying to overcome the death of Robert. I started to write, and then there was a comment or an email, and the next thing I knew, people were sharing their stories with me, telling me how strong I was, how I inspired them, how they loved reading my blog and the story of my life. I had found a purpose again, a purpose that was mine. I had something to do each day just for me. I had a place to share my story and not bottle up everything that was overwhelming my life. I also found a purpose and a way to help others. When Robert was killed, we received a massive compensation. I have found what I was meant to do with the compensation from Robert's death. By the end of next year, we will open Mum Talks Autism Holistic Retreat, where families throughout Australia will be flown because of the ex-husband pilot, directly to our property in Gloucester, New South Wales, and have around-the-clock respite while being pampered in 5-star cabins throughout the property. As their child's respite in the same place where their child is having the respite. The things we will offer families living with autism and is a story in itself and a journey I cannot wait to share with you all. But they are all things that we as a family so desperately needed. This blog, through my words, through sharing my story, has afforded me the most amazing opportunities. It all started with Bree from Twinkle in the Eye when she invited me to speak at Quota's International Women's Day. After that day, I realised that this was my calling. After that appearance that went for an hour, the media picked up this story, our story, and the proposals that are coming my way are endless. I am truly blessed. In early July 2012, 1 month after starting this blog, I met a man named Klaus Bartos, and my life and its path was to change forever. I had no way of knowing this kind man who was all sorts of special. Klaus is the executive chairman of firstavailable.com.au, and they are now officially sponsoring Mum Talks Autism and me. I asked him once why he did so much for me, and he said, "Because I believe in you." Together we're an amazing team, and more than anything, they believe in me and the power of this story. With the support of First Available and the friendships I have formed there, I am now travelling throughout Australia, sharing this story, our story, but most importantly, we're raising autism awareness, one person at a time. Through tragedy, I found my path, even my destiny. A few days ago, Klaus said to me, "The truth is, you are amazing. You just needed someone to put a little wind under those wings of yours." Mum Talks Autism allows me to share the good times along with the bad times with you all this year. Sadness and despair, joy and jubilation, tragedy and triumph. Some of my favourites were my first kiss from Tristan. We waited 5 years for that kiss, but it was so worth it. They told us Tristan would never talk. Them hours and hours of therapy paid off, and he is now talking. We stopped counting at 96 words. After an interesting road trip with my eldest son Drew, I cannot recall the reason Drew had said the word, but we were driving along and Drew said the word shit. So Tristan's in the back seat, who also has echolalia, which is the repeating of words he has heard. So then Tristan shares his new word with us, shit, 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 continuously for the remaining hour-long drive home. I threw a glaring, disapproving look at Drew, who sheepishly smiled and said, 97? We stopped counting my words that day. Last year, for the first time, Tristan told me he loved me, and I shared all that with you all. You supported me last year through my sister's battle as cancer engulfed her life and ours, right up until the present day as our family prepares for the reality of losing her literally any day. You shared my 2012 as I stood up and pulled back the curtain and ran full bolt back into my life. I couldn't have done it without you all. As difficult and as devastating as this story that is my last 10 years has been, this is not a sad story. I know I now share this story with others to hopefully inspire them, to let other people know the strength of the human spirit and what one person can endure and still come out the other side intact. To let them know that no matter what you're going through, that if you believe you can't do it anymore, you're wrong. You can do it. You don't know the strength that you have hidden, the strength of the human spirit, your spirit. If someone had told me on January 21st, 2003, as I turned off the life support on my son Robert, what the next 10 years would hold for me, plus I would also have 3 children with autism for the rest of my life, told me this story, then told me I would be okay, that I'd make it, I would have thought that they were crazy. But they would have been right. I made it. And no matter what you're going through, so can you. Sam Cawthorne summed it up for me last year and gave me a motto to live by. He said, Coralie, there is a time for grief. There is a time for sadness, and then there is a time for living, a time to move on. This is me moving on. Thank you all for helping to give me the voice I so desperately needed to move on. Often we are called just mummy bloggers, but we are so much more than that. We are a family. Some days I wonder why I put so much effort into this blogging gig. I'm sure there are days you do also. Then one day I got an email from a mum saying that reading my blog made her know she was okay because she read it knowing someone, just one other person out there, got what she was going through. On the days when I think, I won't worry about blogging today, I think of her. So next time you wonder about if you're making any difference, if anyone cares about your blog, please stop and remember this day. Remember this moment. Remember me. Because you never know if there is another me out there behind that computer screen holding on to your story to walk back into life till they have the strength to stand alone again.